everyone, welcome back to my channel. For those of you new to the channel, I'm a digital analytics consultant and I'm very enthusiastic about new technologies in the data world like CDP. So if you're working on anything like Adobe Analytics, Adobe Target, Audience Manager, Tag Manager or CDP, this is the channel for you. Today's topic is how to prepare for Adobe Target Business Practitioner or the Expert certification. We'll talk about the strategy and the important topics to prepare. So hop on everyone. So this is basically my strategy for clearing this exam. In general for Adobe certifications, the thumb rule is to cover their documentation and the more thorough you can be with it, it is better. I mean, if you use Adobe videos, that may not cover the content entirely. The next step is to do hands-on, do practice exercises, right? So if you have activities as the topic, you should go ahead, go to the tool and create different types of activities, explore them, whatever options are available, you should know about those options, right? You can try all those options and see how they work. So if, for example, you go ahead, create an activity, see how the three-step workflow works, look at how you can, troubleshoot and debug if the activity is not working and all. So you should know about all these things, right? Which requires a lots of hands-on. The next step is to, look at the exam guide. So here you look at the topics, their weightage, what all the exam is going to test you on, right? And the last one is to use this video to fine tune your strategy, right? We'll cover the important topics. You can guide your preparation using those topics, right? So that's how it works. Let's move on. So this is the exam guide that we have for, Adobe Target Business Practitioner, and we need to look at the exam guide, the different exam topics that they have mentioned here, like, the different sections, what is the weightage and all, and how do we go about these different topics that we need to look at, right? So for example, the section 1 is planning and strategy, right? It has a 31% weightage. Then you have configuring, executing and managing, it's the section 2, it has a 42% weightage and so on, right? You should look at the different topics that they have mentioned within that section, right? Like identifying business KPIs, sample size calculator. They are talking about how the variables impact the activity in sample size calculator, right? So we'll talk about this as well further in the video, right? What that means. And then you have the different reporting sources, right? Target or Adobe Analytics, how do you go about setting up those? So these are the things that you need to look at and see whether you are able to have a stab at it. You are thorough with those topics, right? For example, in configuring, executing and managing, you have form based versus the VEC. So you know the difference, you can differentiate when to use which one. So that's how it works, right? This is the list of important topics that we have, right? And this list is the order of most important to less important topics. So basically we have the descending order of importance, right? Now the first one is activities. Activities, you need to know the basics of each of these activities, right? Whether it's A by B, auto allocate, auto target, automated personalization, recommendations, all the activities you need to know the basics, right? Then you need to know the different types of activities and which is to be used when, right? For example, a manual A by B test you will use when there are large changes, right? When there is a completely new layout, right? You will use an MVT, that is multivariate testing, when you have more than two locations to cover, you have the number of experiences exceeds 5, right? That's a good idea to consider an MVT test in that case. You would consider an auto allocate when you want to reduce the cost and overhead of determining a winning experience. So these are the kind of inputs which you need to consider. Okay, I need to reduce the cost, I'll go for auto allocate. I have a large layout change, I'll go for manual A by B. So that's the kind of dictionary that you need to have for all these different types of activities, and based on which you will get use cases which you need to answer in the exam, right? Then the next thing is that you need to know is about that three-step workflow, right? When you set up the activity and all, you should know all the different steps and everything about it. So that's very important. You should be comfortable with all the options that come in the entire workflow, right? For example, in the third step, which is goals and settings, you can set the priority, you can set up goal metrics, you can set up audiences for reporting. So there are a lot of options on that page, right? So you should be aware of all these options, right? So that's how it is. And then the next is debugging. So you shouldn't be able to validate experiences, right? You should know the different ways of content troubleshooting like mbox trace, mbox debug, activity QA URLs, Adobe Experience Cloud Debugger. So you should know about all these options. And especially in activity QA URLs, you have options for audience targeting testing also, right? So if you have used an audience, like browser is Chrome audience you have used, and you want to test that audience, you have an option in the activity QA URL to test that. So all those things should also be, you should be aware of it, right? So this is how it is. And then the next one is reporting. Now reporting is again a very important topic in this exam, right? uh, you should know all the different reports you have. You should know, like, there are some reports which are specific to some activities like auto target, and then there is MVT, right? So for example, in auto target you have a report called important attributes, right? And it is available only after 15 days of your activity activation, right? So you activated the activity on 1st, so it will be available after 15th, right? So that thing you should know about this report. So you should know all these key features of these different reports, right? Then you should also be aware of the different report settings. Like in the third step of workflow, you can set up audiences for reporting, right? So all those different options you should be aware of. You should be aware of the target reporting interface, right? You can do reporting in Adobe Analytics, or you could do reporting in Adobe Target. So you should know how do you select the reporting source as Adobe Target or Adobe Analytics, right? And you should know about the target reporting interface. And then A40, that is when you use Adobe Analytics as the reporting, then you should be, it's a very important topic, A40, right? So be thorough with that topic, right? From the reporting perspective. So that's there. Then we have sample size calculator. Sample size calculator, again, this is I think you will get around 10 questions on this topic, right? Reports, you will get around 10 questions. Sample size calculators, again, 10 questions, right? You get a lot of questions on this topic. So you should be aware of the key terms like statistical significance, confidence level, and so on. Then you will get business cases wherein you will be asked to suggest the next best step, right? You should be well aware of the relationship between the different variables like number of days estimated for the test to run and the daily traffic, right? What is the relationship between baseline conversion rate and the lift, right? How those variables change. So if I reduce the baseline conversion rate, what will be the impact on the time taken for the test to run or the lift, and so on and forth, right? So this is about that. And then there is, you should know the best practices of running these A by B test, right? You should know the do's and don'ts, like not changing or the audience or removing any variations in the middle of the experiment, right? So these are the different practices. There is an article in Adobe Target documentation of how to, 10 common A by B testing pitfalls and how to avoid them. So do go through that. Do go through an article how long should you run an A by B test. That is also an important article in their documentation. Then you have the MVT traffic estimator. Again, it's similar to the sample size calculator, the concept wise. You know, you will also get around 2 questions for this one. So that's there. I have created a video just for sample size calculator where I'm talking about the different key terms the relationship between the different variables, and the consulting part of different use cases. I would say that's a must see if you want to clear the certification, because it really clears all the concepts and all, right? Next is audiences. Now, audiences, you should know about visitor profiles, what is visitor profile lifetime, what are profile attributes. Like, overall level, if you know about these topics, it's fine. Even if you do not know the deep questions around these, it will be fine. You just cover the basics, it will be fine. Inbuilt audience categories is a very important topic when it comes to audiences under the business practitioner certification exam. So you have, right, you can create an audience in Adobe Target based on the previous page, based on the current page, based on browser, operating system, and so on and forth, right? So all those options that are there, you should be very comfortable with these options, and you should know how that entire audience is created. You should be able to create an audience in that workflow, and using those options. So uh, some questions are asked on those, right? So you get a good number of questions on that as well. Next is VC versus form versus SPA, single page application experience composer. So you'll get different use cases, and you'll be asked like whether you'll use VC, which is visual experience composer, or the form based one, or the single page application, right? Now, do remember that VC is the user friendly one, and it is like where, even marketers, non-technical people can use it, right? Form based is more for the technical people, and form based is the non-visual experience editor, and it's used to create experiences and offers for delivery in emails, voice assistants, and so on. So you should know the different use cases which to use when, right? And then the last one is recommendations. Now, recommendations, you will get some very simple questions like when you need to use recommendations. You will get a use case, and you will be asked, like, you will be given different activities, and then you will be asked whether you should be using recommendations or not. So that is like when to use them. And then some basic concepts like, you should know what is design, what is criteria, what is collection, what is exclusion, right? What are the different algorithms in recommendations, and when you will need these concepts, right? So this is how it is. So that's all for today. All the best for your preparation. Do well. Hope this video is helpful. Do like, share, and subscribe. Comment on any topics that you would like me to cover, and I will happily share my guidance on the same.